Hi, welcome. In this video, I want to respond once again by way of a social media post put out by Robert Hines. And this is all about, again, I talk about the test. Okay, what is a way to establish the nature of the relationship, how you're currently perceived in the relationship, and understand this is a test I use, okay, when I walk into situation involving a relationship problem between the dog and owner. Okay, this is the test that I use. But again, in terms of lining everything up, okay, in terms of all the behavioral issues that dog owners are experiencing, and to help them make sense, okay, of even their role, of the method, okay, and to even reconcile certain reactions, okay, being able to move through them. So again, talk about why trainers like Kevin Murdoch can't. He's not the guy to move through a relationship problem that way. I mean, he's stalled out in his idea of things. But again, when he did the video, here's the thing: when he did the video, and this is that back and forth between him and DeBose, when he put himself in that position, okay, and he actually put the leash on finally, okay, after a year. Understand, he could have done this a year ago. He refused to do. He didn't want to do it. Now he did it, and now that's it. Okay, but if you go watch the video, it shows it right with in terms of of the issue about intent. Okay, of Grey Goose understanding intent based again on the direction how the leash is being applied, influence and control being reconciled, take the form of a demand, a reasonable demand. Okay, I talk about the whole context even there because when you line up this thing about reconciling the reaction to the relationship, okay, then look at all the behavioral issues. Understand this. This is the thing too, because if you get a reaction, people will automatically say, "Oh, the dog doesn't understand." No, the dog does understand intent based on how you're moving the leash. Okay, understand you have to line it up. You have to apply critical thinking here. Okay, because this is the thing that about when I talk about the right conversation. Okay, not verbal. Okay, through the method. Okay, through the interaction itself. Okay, understanding intent. Okay, at the social level. So dog understands intent by way of how you're putting. So trust me, Grey Goose understood. Grey Goose locked down. Okay, refused to move forward. It was disagreeable. Okay, you had the noises in the background. Again, that was another trigger anyway for. So when you talk about, say, when Mark DeBose talked about, there's moments off leash, because understand this is where these trainers, including Hines, right? This is how they're marketing. Understand something here. They're marketing a fake and phony picture to people because this whole thing with that's why I kept going on about off leash, loose leash, movement, right? There's certain relational dynamics here that these trainers are doing to sell a bad picture to people. Okay, they're marketing that way, and so this whole thing with the off leash stuff. Okay, this is the problem. It's like I talk about the parent example. A selfish child can look what exactly as they're playing the video games, doing what they want to do. They can look well behaved most of the day, like 80% and above of the day. But ask yourself the question, because this is important, really think about this. Keep this in your hip pocket when I'm talking about influence and control and what's revealed in certain moments. One of the moments as a parent when the bad attitude of the child is exposed, is revealed. It takes the form of parental influence, right, by way of a demand, reconcile properly through the roles, right? It's pick up your toys because it's implied, because if it's taken a form of a demand, because you're the parent, it's a reasonable demand, okay? Reconcile through the authoritative parenting style, pick up your toys. But for the selfish child that has a bad attitude, what typically is the response, okay? Especially if, right? If things have already been set in motion through the permissive parenting style, it's like, what's in it for me? All right. And then you're going to have backlash, right? You're going to have that disagreeableness. You're going to have no, I ain't doing it. All right, you expose, right, the bad attitude. But for the child that is, has the right attitude, right, that's in the right parenting style, they're to come into agreement with it. And at some point, not tied in the way I talk in terms of using that through the permissive parenting as the main motivator, there could be a reward, right? There could be something, but their attitude is right, right? Their perceptions or the parenting style is right. So, the child has a good attitude about stuff, right? See, and that's the thing about lining stuff up versus, and again, talk about um, the integrity of that conversation to truly reveal the right way versus what some of these trainers do, like the whole Murdoch thing when there was a moment like 3 or 4 weeks ago when was just frustrated because I kept talking about the leash, right? He wouldn't do it the way I described, but then he threw the leash, put the leash on Grey Goose, and not the way he just did, okay, which was the right way. He put the and he just started moving forward. Oh, look! That wasn't it. Like he didn't do it. See, that's the thing. It's just like why is it that he didn't want to do that? But then now he's got all these problems, right, that he's admitting to at the same time. Well, busted, right? Because that's how it works. That's the way to know. Okay, there's a way to know. So understand these trainers when they're, and this is with Hines, because right here I was responding to social media post. I'm already kind of responding to it now, but off leash, right? Things can look a certain way, and not be. But you will, like the boss was saying, well, when loud noise is off leash, you're going to have certain reactions that are going to expose it at a certain level anyway. Okay, you're going to have, okay, this dog isn't coming to the person. This dog is freezing up. This dog is that. But these trainers can still play what they do. They can play the shell game anyway because it's just like with Murdoch, like what suddenly he's walking the other way, and he'll do it in a way that he's not even you won't even know that's what he's doing on video. His important live streams, right? Live streams are a joke because he's playing the shell game that way, right? So, and here's the thing: is that Robert Hines is doing the same thing in all the dog parks, and he's awfully right in Monty, and so here, right? But I put the same challenge to him: do what Murdoch just did, and put Monty on a leash and line it up because it's reasonable, right? It's a reasonable type of interaction, right? And let's see the real deal. But we already know the real deal because he's already admitted Monty's a mess. I know he's a mess, right? Not in a bad way. It's fixable. I understand it's fixable, right? But he doesn't want to go that because it's about him, right? I understand this is a human problem. This is a selfish human saying, I ain't gonna go that, But as a parent, ask yourself the question: if you have a relationship problem with your child, what are you gonna do? You're gonna do the right thing. I don't. Hey, you don't want confrontation, but I'm gonna fix this, right? I'm gonna do the right thing. So understand here, these trainers, they're not doing the right thing because they're not marketing that way anyway. And besides, by getting them out into the light, out in the open, what happens? Well, their 5-year marketing plan is destroyed. Right? So understand these trainers have invested everything in this ideology, this idea, and it's a shim sham operation, right? And they're playing the shell game with dog owners, and you see these trainers even like the trophies in the background, world champion, right? I don't do that, but that's the thing. They'll do that, and they may have personal success at a high level with their own personal dogs, but they still can't answer the question. People are still coming to them and ending up with a bad picture. Right? You understand? I talk about this. So people, they're playing the game. Okay, all these trainers, I don't care how high up they are on social media and what they're doing, like world champions and stuff, they're playing the game. Okay, they're selling this to people. And I talk about it. Here's the test. Here's a way to know, but here's the solution. Here's the way to move forward with changing dogs. So here, um, let's read some of what Robert Hines says. He goes, "What a pathetic attempt at Monty." Tag me all the videos of Monty off leash. See, off leash, right? What's he leaning on? Right? He's leaning on this fake and phony picture. And what? Because he changed it around, right? Suddenly, first say Monty's a mass reactive, and then suddenly, oh, Monty's not a mass anymore. And what's he showing all the time? Monty off leash. You can't trust any of that. Okay, there's a way to, like I said, there's a way to tell. And what you want, and leading other people into a bad picture. And what you want me to put him on leash? Like, well, absolutely. For what purpose? I just explained it. Haven't leashed them for years. Well, of course you haven't leashed them for years. Okay, because that's the thing that exposes it. From a man that can't walk a dog without choking out. And see how they go there, right? So it's like they don't want to do what's reasonable to show the real picture. And then when they see they can't, because they can't reconcile the responses properly to the relationship. I talked through that. And so when they see a certain reaction or whatever, then it's about violence, right? Zach George choking out dogs, right? It's like because they're not lining up in. I talk about intent. Okay, those things have to dog understanding intent. It's got to line up. Then you can reconcile the response properly to the relationship. But see, these bribery-based permissive dog trainers, what they do, it's like going into a store with a child that's starting to have a temper tantrum, and you've seen it. And what does a parent do? Oh, they try to bribe their way out of it. So you can calm the waters, right? Because think about this: you can calm the waters, and But it doesn't mean you're fixing the relationship. Okay, you're just escaping temporarily in that situation in that moment because the child's a brat, you know. Anyway, and so the parenting style is in play, right? But then the reaction part, I mentioned this. This is another video. It's called the ice cream truck example. You know, trainers and they do it. So the reactions, right, coming from the relationship itself, they'll try to package it up as violence and choking and certain because they themselves are engaged in bribery, accommodation, negotiation. Even Murdaugh is involved in that, those themes. And so they try to get the mob going, right? And but they can't see, but they're in the trap, right? So that's the way to try to sell this is, hey, if I can get people to buy in that if you don't believe, trust the picture that I'm selling, even though it's a fake and phony picture, then these other trainers, they're violent, they're dog abusers, right? And all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I talk about, you know, these trainers like Murdoch will virtue signal other bad trainers who are not, it isn't lining up. See, control influence, they're, you know, doing certain things, and it is a bad, it's not alignment, and that's not what I'm talking about. See, they're still virtue signal, do that to try to prop up their own fake and phony approach and picture that they're selling. Okay, understand, this is all a game here. I'm supposed to take advice from you. You really are nuts. I'm not nuts at all. So he goes on about being nuts and stuff. You know, you can take everything I say, everything I show, you can put it all to the test. You are finished. I told you it would happen. You destroyed yourself. He keeps coming off like that. And Murdoch says the same thing all the time in his videos about people are scared of him, like terrified of him, scared of him. I mean, so ridiculous. Like who these, but see the arrogance. It's the arrogance. That's the blind spot here. I mean, because you have to humble yourself. I talk about this. You got to have humility. You got to humble yourself to be able to put what I say to the test. Because if you're already caught up in this stuff and you're already selling it and you think highly of yourself and you actually think you're somebody, it's a hard fall here. Okay, it's a hard fall. Um, Go make another mini series reaction. Watch it's pathetic to watch a grown man struggle. See, it's just the same thing. See, and I talk about the cheap shots going on. Listen, there's a way to tell. Okay, there's a test. It's not based on what you think of me. Hey, Murdoch just there it is, and then suddenly Murdoch's saying, "Oh, I got all these problems with the dog." Well, trust me, Heinz got the same problems with Monty, but he's playing the same shell game. That's all this is. So I just want to put it out there. There is a way to know. There's a test, okay? This off leash stuff and the dog, you can't go by that. You might pick up indicators, right, to say, okay, this dog is freezing up or things are going on, but then you get confused. Say, oh well, this dog seems better than this. No, you put it to the test. Attach that leash, okay? Bring the demand. Just think about the same thing with a selfish child. When do you know? Can't know, you know, if a child's floating around playing their video games, maybe doing certain responses that are tied in the wrong way to the wrong parenting style can lead you into being deceived. But see, understand there's a thing here where people know. I mean, this is a lie. This stuff, people are lying, Murdoch, they're lying all over the place. And they know I mean, so there's no baseline of honesty or ethics here. I talk about that. Then you add all this other stuff into it. This is where we're at. So the dog training world's a mess. Okay. Understand that this is a train wreck and you can just start there. I mean, you don't have to, these trainers are trying to come after me, right? I just respond back. Well, here's the test. Here's the information. And they're offended, right? For no cause. All right. They're offended because here's two things going to happen here. Because you've even seen this happen with a couple people taking my courses who are all tied into Murdoch now. Right. That's incredible, right? It's like, well, why would they do that? Because you're gonna have two responses when you go in and you're already turned over, okay, to this it's a belief system. It's a type of identity crisis going on. So there's two things going to happen. You go into my system. You're either going, you have to humble yourself. You got to let it go. Great things are going to happen, right? You're gonna see it. Your insight levels. You're going to see through it all, right? So it's going to be like real hope, a real picture of change. Okay, it's going to be great, or you're going to be offended, right? You're gonna be highly offended, and you're going to want to go on the attack, right? You're going to want to do something, right? But it's all information based, so you're going to be thrown on the rocks of your ideology. That's just I'm not to come off prideful, but it's the way it is. It's the way it is. So because I say it's all information. You know, I call it the question of the century. It's right at the top of my Facebook page. You go read it. It goes into the thing. What's the criteria these trainers are using to establish that perception dogs are changed in the right way within the framework of response, whether it's off leash. Doesn't matter. Response. Off leash, loose leash. What's the framework? What's the criteria they're using? Well, there is none. It's not reconciled. I thought what the criteria is influence and control, reconciled through the leash, the way that Murdoch got busted on that video. There it is. There's no way around it. There's no, but he put himself there. Okay. He was there all along. So there it is. This goes for anybody or any system. Okay. I mean, it's all there. Hines the same way. What do you think he's going on about this whole thing about? Yeah, it sound a fake picture, playing a shell game. There's a way to know that he ain't going to go there. Okay, because the same thing's going to happen to him. What happened to Murdoch? Thanks for watching.